Hello and welcome to another session of Karen's Colours. I'm Dr. Karen and these are my colour conversations. For this session, I had originally planned to do another movie review of colours, but it was to be one for Halloween and it's a little too early for that. So I looked around for inspiration and I found it from one of my subscribers. I'd like to thank Aaron David 2308 for this video. This one is all about dreaming colours and how one can train oneself to do colour dreaming, and particularly colour dreaming when lucid. Are you a lucid dreamer? I know I am, but there are various stages of lucid dreaming. Some of us can do it all the time, some of us can only do it occasionally, and there are many people who only ever dream lucidly once in their lives. So let's explore this, shall we? Now, dreams are a phenomenon that have been investigated scientifically for quite a number of decades. Certainly, there are stories of dreams and their meanings that go back through the centuries. But that's not what we're interested in here today. Let's have a quick look at what it is I'm going to be discussing. In this session, we have a number of topics to cover. Firstly, we're going to need to define just what is a dream. Then we'll look at a number of different types of dreams that people have and the influences that may contribute to dreaming or perhaps even prevent dreams from happening. Then we'll examine how one recalls dreams and discover just how one can learn to do so. And the same occurs with lucid dreaming. What is it? How do we do it? And how can we learn to control lucid dreams? And then finally, we're going to look at how colour actually impinges upon dreams and how one can learn also to dream in colour. The best definition of what a dream is that it is a hallucination which occurs during sleep. But that's not necessarily true for every type of dream. For dreaming sleep, we have an association with rapid eye movement sleep. These rapid eye movement sessions cycle throughout the entire sleep session, and the deeper asleep you are or the longer asleep you are, the more likely it is that you're going to go into a rapid eye movement stage, which will enable you to dream. All mammals dream, and there is evidence also that there are a number of other creatures that dream. Octopi, for example, are being investigated at the moment through scientific methods to determine whether or not they actually dream as well. Dreams are associated with vocalizations, with movements, even such things as sleepwalking, and people can do some pretty amazing things while asleep, but in a dreaming state. And dreams are more often than not triggered by emotional states. There are a number of purposes to dreaming, and some of these include confronting life's challenges. So you are more likely to dream if you've had something traumatic happen. It unleashes creativity. If you have a problem to solve, then dreaming about that problem will in fact solve the issue for you in some way. And it also is considered to aid in memory and learning. Most dreams are benign. They don't evoke strong emotions, and as such, we don't tend to remember them. But you can have vivid wakening dreams, which are mostly remembered when someone wakes up during a rapid eye movement or an REM phase of sleep. But we also have false awakenings. And this is where in a dream, a person is convinced that they have woken up, but they are still asleep. An example of such a dream would be a child who doesn't actually know that they haven't gotten out of bed at night to use the toilet, and so therefore wet their beds. We also have lucid dreams. Now, these are dreams in which the dreamer is aware that they are dreaming while remaining in the dream. And approximately 55% of all humans tend to have some of these lucid dreams throughout their lives. Dreams can also be recurring. That is, they repeat themselves And these are often associated with waking experience. So if there is something that has occurred in your life and you need to resolve an issue associated with that particular instance, then you are going to find that that dream may recur over and over until such time as your brain has resolved the issue. It may be benign or it may be fear-inducing. Fear-inducing dreams always cause distress, and they're brought on by emotional issues, sleep deprivation, and also drugs can influence fear-inducing dreams. These can often associate with huge amounts of emotional input, and most children will have nightmares of some sort. Most nightmares are associated with some sort of unpleasant experience during the previous day, and that can be something as innocuous as watching a film that scares you or reading something that has incited your imagination, or even your own history of having nightmares. On the other hand, you could also have a severe form of nightmare called a night terror. Now, these are quite typical in children, and they have little or no memory of the dream, but often wake up extremely agitated. There is a high physical fear response associated with night terrors, and if they continue on past adolescence into adulthood, then often it's a good idea to get some sort of therapy which will enable you to overcome whatever the problem is that induced such a dream. But dreams can also occur during daylight and wakefulness. And these we call waking dreams. There are two types. The first are daydreams. These are streams of consciousness that detach the person from a current task. They can be so deeply involved in the fantasies of a daydream that they're completely unaware of what's going on around them. You can usually recognize someone who is daydreaming by the vacant stare in their eyes. On the other hand, you can also have daymares. Now, these are waking catastrophic fantasies, and they're seen in people with anxiety disorders and depression, and often in children who have ADHD. There is a link thought to occur with daymares and autism, but that has not been firmly established yet. There are a number of influences on dreams, and the first of these, of course, is age. Dreaming is far more common in young things. That is, young children and adolescents are far more likely to dream than those in their senility. It's thought to link to learning. So as the child grows up and learns new things, has new experiences, those are processed through their dreams. But sleep deprivation will also increase the amount of rapid eye movement sleep. Unfortunately, the dreams associated with sleep deprivation, REM, are often much more vivid or frightening than an ordinary dream. High carbonate foods that are eaten before bed will also tend to reduce dreams. Waking up at night due to food or fluid intake can also increase the memory of dreams. Exercise reduces dream sleep and nightmares, which is very handy for those of us who suffer from nightmares, but de-stressing has a similar effect. So whatever access you have to de-stressing materials, whether that be meditation practices or reading something comforting or listening to music or whatever, these will also tend to reduce dream sleep and nightmares. Reduced dreaming, when it does occur, is really the most restful type of sleep, and so is good for recovering from exhaustion and also from illness. The ability to remember dreams is influenced by the surge of norepinephrine, which is what the Americans call it. We call it noradrenaline here in Australia. And these neurotransmitters surge through your mind the moment that you wake. And that reduces your ability to remember dreams because it instantly puts you into a frame of mind to think about what it is you're going to be doing in the day ahead. So any thought or activity on waking, as soon as you wake, will help a dream to fade. Remembered dreams are often related to being woken mid-dream. So if you set an alarm and you happen to be in an REM phase, then you're more likely to remember parts of that dream when the alarm goes off. However, the problem is that once you've turned the alarm off, then that dream is instantly forgotten because of that surge of neurotransmitter energy. So how then can we train ourselves to recall dreams? Well, the first thing we need to understand is that dream recall is actually a cognitive skill. It is something that we can learn to do. It is learnt through practice. And one of the things that you can do through this practice is to give yourself a pre-sleep instruction. So you can tell yourself as you're falling asleep that you want to remember your dreams. If that's the last thought that you have before you fall asleep, then there is an increased chance of being able to remember a dream. You can also avoid any sort of waking distraction. So concentrate on the dream or whatever it is that you last remember of it as soon as you awaken, and stay in bed for a few minutes practicing the recall rather than getting up immediately on waking. But perhaps the most effective method is to record your dreams. As soon as you wake and notice that you've been dreaming, say out loud any aspect of the dream that remains within your recall. Then the next step is to either write it out or record it in some way, what dream or part of a dream that you can remember. And you do that immediately on rising before you allow yourself to think about anything else that you have to do. Retention of the dream is increased through this conscious effort. And the more you practice that effort, the more likely it is that you will remember your dreams. You also need to examine the dream consciously, because during the waking period, if you continually go back to what it is that you remembered of the dream, then that will be helpful in identifying the commonalities or the recurrences and imagery that occurs during dreams, because we often dream about the same things from a slightly different perspective over and over until whatever issue it was that induced that dream is resolved. And that brings us neatly to the subject of lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming is correlated with meditation practices, but also with self-hypnosis. Now, I was a hypnotist for many years and practiced self-hypnosis a great deal, which has helped me to not only have lucid dreams, but also to retain them quite easily. The use of binaural beat music, which you can pick up from the internet just about anywhere, helps train the brain to get into the sort of mind state that enables you to dream and remember those dreams. An enhanced ability to reduce nightmares and night terrors also accompanies the ability to lucid dream. If you can get into a dream and you can manipulate that dream, then you are likely to be able to get rid of nightmares. Lucid dreams do have a mild correlation with nightmare frequency. Nightmares can even trigger lucidity. You can find yourself in the midst of a nightmare suddenly becoming aware that you are dreaming, that this is not really happening. But that doesn't often help in overcoming the dream until you are able to control what is happening. It's most common amongst adolescents. So as we get older, we have fewer nightmares and we have less chance of learning how to lucid dream, but it's not impossible. Remember, it's a skill that can be learnt. The issues with lucid dreaming is that the dreamer is always aware that they are dreaming, and the lucidity varies in intensity across dreams and also across the different types of dreamers. Some people are able to easily manipulate and interact with every aspect of the dream. Others simply stand back and are observers and realize that they are observing something rather than being involved in the dream. The dream narrative is generally one that can be controlled. You can move and act from volition. You can change dreams. There is a correlation between control of the dream and awareness that you are dreaming it, but neither of these issues requires the other. So you can control the dream without necessarily being aware that you are in control, or you can be aware that you are there, but not able to control it. The choice is available to the lucid dreamer to either interact with the dream or to stand back and observe. Some people simply prefer to observe all the time and so keep themselves separate from the dream that they are witnessing. The one thing that is, of course, very important to all dreams, lucid dreams included, is that physical laws need not apply to the dream. You can be aware that your actions will not carry over into the waking state, and you can retain a clear memory of the waking world whilst in the dream state. So issues that appear to be quite odd or puzzling within the dream can be recognized during the dream as being incompatible with reality. So how do we induce lucid dreams? Well, there's been quite a bit of study on this, and there are 3 methods that are considered to be particularly useful in developing the ability to lucid dream. The first of this is called MILD, the mnemonic induction of lucid dreams, and this one uses a mixture of reality checking, affirmations, and visualization. Then we have the SSILD. This is the senses-initiated lucid dream. This one uses the VAK system, which was part of the neurolinguistics repertoire of activities. The third method is the WBTB method, which is wake back to bed, in which the potential dreamer is able to set an alarm, wakes up, probably in REM sleep, and then after a period of time returns to sleep. We'll look at all of these in a little more detail in a moment. Then there are the outcomes from lucid dreaming. You can have what is known as a DILD, that is a dream-induced lucid dream. This is the most common form, and it's lucidity that occurs after the onset of the dream. These are the most common form of lucid dreams that I have, although I have occasionally had a WILD, a wake-induced lucid dream. And this is where the lucidity follows from a meditative or a hypnotic process that is used just prior to falling asleep. There are quite a number of different authors who will discuss and offer courses on how to induce lucid dreaming, and I'll leave the link to one of these that I found particularly interesting in the description below. So let's now look at each one of those particular techniques in more detail. The first of them is the mild technique, the mnemonic induction of lucid dreaming. The first thing you need to do is set an intention. Create a dream goal while you are awake. Record this aim. Write it, draw it, or give yourself an audio message that you might be able to repeat to yourself as you are falling asleep. Now, this is a very ancient technique. It was quite often described as one in which you simply wrote down a wish on a piece of paper, popped it under your pillow, and you would dream about that wish during the night. It can be quite effective. The second step is to create an affirmation. And this affirmation is one that should be repeated just prior to falling asleep. And you can repeat it as often as you need to. And it can be something as simple as, when I dream of such and such an issue, I will remember that I am dreaming. So you're challenging your mind to accept this instruction. But be aware, it's important to do this as a verbal instruction that you can actually hear. It's no good just having it inside your head. You need to repeat it from outside of the body, because the brain functions best on receiving its instructions from outside, not from random thoughts that may occur internally. The other advantage of repeating it out loud is that you are not likely to be distracted by intrusive thoughts. You need to repeat this affirmation several times as you are drifting off to sleep. As well as this, you can visualize the desired result. In other words, imagine the desired result. Imagine dreaming about the topic and becoming lucid while in the dream. Imagine doing something very specific in the dream. Now, you're don't necessarily have control of the content of the dream, but you might decide beforehand that you're going to notice a particular color or a particular object, or even reach out and touch an object or manipulate it in some way during the dream. The outcome of the MILD system is that it's effective for approximately 1/5 of all attempts. But it's extremely important to record the results on waking, because one dream out of 5 definitely is not likely to be very conducive to making you believe that you can lucid dream unless you have a record of it to enable you to look back and say, yes, I remember that one. That's the other advantage of recording your dreams. You can then go back and remember them. And interestingly enough, by recording your dreams, you can actually recall much more of it than you can if you are just simply waking up and trying to remember a dream. The second technique, the SSILD, or sensus-initiated lucid dream, requires 4 to 5 hours of sleep to target the rapid eye movement phase of dreams. There are a number of precursor activities you need to do, and you need to repeat these quickly at first and then more slowly, leading up to approximately 20 seconds per step. This requires planning, and you also need to go into this with no expectation of success. If you expect to be successful, then that actually is counterproductive. Lucid dreaming comes about as a result of practice, but if you want to achieve something on the first attempt, then chances are that you will fail simply because your brain and your body are not yet ready to undertake that activity. So the first technique is to visualize. So you close your eyes and you notice what is seen within those closed eyelids. Avoid forcing any form of image, just simply take note of what is there. For me, it's always colors. Listen to what's going on in and around you. I can often hear my own heartbeat, and there are also noises, ambient noises around in the environment in which I am trying to sleep, whether it be the ticking of a clock or cars passing by in the street outside the house. Accept all of those sounds without judgment. Just notice what they are and allow them to pass on, concentrating on noticing more sounds. And then we go into the kinesthetic part, that is, feel what it is that is going on with your body itself. Direct your attention to the whole body. Notice the sensations of anything in and around your body. Maybe that could be the amount of heat that you're generating. Maybe it could be the weight of blankets on your body. Whatever it is, notice the feelings that are associated with your body sensations. Now, the outcome from SSILD is generally considered to be effective, but it does require constant practice. This is the technique that is most closely associated to self-hypnosis and meditation practices. And so if you're already doing those practices, then this is probably the system for you. It also commonly causes false awakenings during a sleep cycle and is associated with sleep paralysis. Now, that's another issue altogether that I don't really have the space for in this video, but we can discuss it in the notes below if you care to. Which brings us to a related system called the Wake Back to Bed technique, WBTB. This is best used with both the mild or the SSILD techniques, and it's ideal for long sleep sessions. It requires the ability to fall asleep after waking, so if you are not easily able to do that, then try and avoid this particular technique. The first thing to do is to wake up to an alarm set to about 4 to 5 hours after you first fall asleep. Then you need to get up out of bed and undertake some sort of activity. 30 to 60 minutes is considered to be ideal, and it's also a good idea to take some vitamin B6. That helps with allowing the neurotransmitters in your brain to activate to enable more lucid dreaming. Journal the dream on waking. Use that as the activity time. and create affirmations as well while you are awake. It's not a good idea to eat or to go and sit and watch TV or read a book, although some people do find these methods acceptable. It could possibly be helped by allowing yourself to listen to some soothing music, but you need to stay awake for a considerable period of time before trying to resume sleep. Once you've resumed the sleep state or gone back to bed, you need to initiate either the MILD or SSILD techniques, and the efficiency of the lucid dream that results depends on your individual habits. This technique is not one for the faint-hearted because it takes a long time to achieve results. Irritability from sleep deprivation is quite common, and there are better results obtained if you use guided meditations to put you back into a sleep-type state. Once again, guided meditations are associated with self-hypnosis and meditation techniques, and both of those, if you practice them during your waking state, will lead to a greater likelihood of developing the ability to lucid dream. Now, you can do reality checks to make sure that you are in fact lucid dreaming, and these need to be planned before you actually go to sleep. You need to associate the checks with new or odd experiences, so individual responses will affect their effectiveness, and they can be triggered by something random in a dream. So the technique you might use, and one that apparently is quite effective, I've never used it myself, is to push your finger into the palm of your hand. If your finger goes straight through the palm, then you know you are dreaming. If it doesn't, then chances are you're awake. You could read something in the dream itself. I've done this myself many times, and it's always gobbledygook. It never comes up as anything that is worth reading, even though I have a pressure that tells me that this is an important thing to read. You could play an instrument. One of the more common ways of noticing that you are lucid dreaming, and this is one that I've used a lot, is to jump in the air and float. This is one that is quite recurrent for me, and I find it quite enjoyable. You can also try and lift a heavy object that is too heavy in reality, and I often combine this with the jumping in the air and flying dreams, in which I swoop down and grab something really heavy and bring it up into the air with me. The checks that you make for lucid dreaming confirm that you are indeed in the dream state. And while these checks may appear weird, feel a little odd, they may even frighten the person who has never noticed that they can lucid dream. But it's important to ask yourself, even in the dream, am I dreaming? And asking yourself that can often result in your affirmation that, yes, that's exactly what you are doing. And that brings us to dreaming in color or black and white. Dreams create what we call dreamscapes. They arise from the colors in everyday experience, and their symbolic meanings vary depending on your cultural and personal contexts. But they also represent various aspects of the dreamer's psyche. The intensity of the color can vary, and they may enhance the emotions in dreams, but they're also linked to everyday emotional associations. So if you associate a particular color with a particular emotion or experience, then that will carry through into your dreams. Dreams can be monotone, they can be colored, or you can have dreams that are both. Looking firstly at monotone dreams. Now, research says that these are far more common in people who grew up in an era where there was no color TV and no color films. But I'm not so sure that really applies. We all have color acuity, and we all have color ranges that haven't changed for millennia. We are humans after all. Our retinal and visual apparatus in the brain is still the same. Then this is probably due to the fact that very little research has been done in this area. We haven't scientifically examined dreams until the last 5 or 6 decades in any great detail. Dreams can also evoke feelings of timelessness and longing for a simpler time. So black and white are associated with nostalgia. They're also supposedly linked to sadness and melancholy, and they symbolize a dichotomy or conflict within the dreamer's psyche. So it is claimed. But when one confronts unresolved issues or conflicting desires, then there certainly is an increased correlation with black and white dreams. The nightmare that I had throughout childhood was entirely black and white. Non-lucid dreamers rarely notice or remember the colors of their dreams anyway, so we really don't know how many people actually dream in color, when they dream in color, or what sort of dreams are colored or which are monochrome. Monotone dreams are also associated with people who have a condition known as achromatopsia. This is where a person is born without the cones that are necessary for color vision in their retina. And this is a recessive mutation that occurs in their DNA. These people report typically that they dream in shades of grey, although if you have no idea what a colour is, I guess it's pretty hard to say even what grey is. Colour dreams, on the other hand, rely very much on a personal history. These influence the colours that occur within dreams, and they don't always correlate with reality. They may represent complex emotions or subconscious ideas that are difficult to express in words. So colours give you images that are associated with an unspoken subconscious language. Dreams can also include non-existent colours. Colours can be linked to all sorts of abstract thinking or heightened imagination that enables you to imagine a colour that is not existent within the real world and interact with that within the dream. Colour blindness will actually distort the type of colours that are available to the dreamer. And like those people with achromatopsia, where they do not see colour at all, people with various different types of colour blindness will have their colour dreams also altered to fit with those particular colour anomalies. And there is one other experience that needs to be noted in terms of colour, and that is the people who have the condition known as synesthesia. Synesthesia merges all sorts of sensory experiences, so these people can see sound, they can hear feelings. Certainly, those people will also have rather bizarre colour associations within their dreaming life. So you might find that someone who might hear or engage with music in a lucid dream may engage with those as colours rather than as sounds. Now, just as we are capable of learning to lucid dream and to remember our dreams, we can also learn to dream in colour. Perhaps the most important aspect of this is to keep a dream diary or a dream journal. This helps with general dream memory skills, and I've already talked about some of those, but it also encourages lucid dreaming responses. The more you engage with your dreams, the more you record, the more that you allow your conscious mind to deal with the dream content, the more likely it is that you're going to be able to remember them. The more you remember, the more likely it is that you're going to be able to engage with them. So dream journaling not only allows you to be able to engage with dreams more effectively, but it also facilitates the analysis of the dreams and also reflection on what those dreams mean for you in real life. After all, we dream with a purpose. But dream journaling requires dedication. The first thing you need to do with learning to dream in colour is to notice any colour within the dream and then to record it. Now, my own dreams don't often have vivid colours, but occasionally I do notice a single colour and it seems to be of importance. When I was considering just what to do with this anomaly of having to do a Halloween film analysis a week or so before Halloween and not very happy about that, I actually dreamt about receiving a yellow box. I interacted with that box. I took it to someone who opened it for me without telling me how they did so, and then gave it back. I woke before I actually looked at the contents, but the first thought I had on reflecting on that particular coloured box was to think about Aaron David's 2308's comment about lucid dreaming, and that brought me to this video now. So again, I thank you very much for the idea. As well as recording any colors that appear, you also need to record any feelings or associations of that color with the object. That helps you to stabilize the meaning of that particular color for you. Learn to recognize those personal color meanings so that when you encounter those colors again within a dream, you're able to remember what it is that they represented and so therefore deal with that. You also need to revise the journal to ascertain what are the recurring themes. Is there something that you're not actually dealing with? Is there something that you need to pay attention to? And finally, dream colors indicate some sort of physical or emotional health condition that may be occurring long before any symptoms may arise. So dreaming in color has its benefits, but it also can be a warning. We can also enhance our color dreaming by engaging with the color or object in the dream, just as I did with the little yellow box. Interrogate the experience within the dream and also afterwards. What amplified emotions or memories are invoked? What sorts of ideas do you come up with that are associated with the color of whatever it was that you were interacting with within the dream? You also need to meditate on the result of your research and also journal about it. There is an enhanced self-awareness which increases lucid dream success that accompanies journaling and research about a particular dream color. Remember that not everybody dreams in colors and not everybody dreams in colors at all times. So if you don't see any colors within a dream, don't consider yourself to have failed. You may just be someone who doesn't do this with a great deal of frequency. Dream color interpretation is something that a lot of people have attempted, and this goes back for centuries. The interpretation is very subjective. The research into color psychology and dream interpretation is general, and being generalist as such does not necessarily apply to everyone. Are these in fact relevant to your life and your life experiences? If they are, record what you've learnt. If they aren't, record what you've learnt. So, what have we actually looked at in this video? Firstly, we know that dreams are hallucinations. They can occur both in sleep and in wakeful states, and they can be both benign or malignant, and sometimes they can be a mixture of both. Dream recall is a learned skill, and dreams that are lucid will actually permit you to interact with the dream, and that also can be learnt. They are induced via the MILD, SSILD, and WBTB techniques. Whichever it is that you choose to practice, keep up with it, because it will take a little while, but eventually you will attain some form of success. Colors in dreams have very subjective meanings, so you can't just simply accept what somebody else assumes is a color analysis of your dream. And dream journals are perhaps the most vital part to enhancing dreams, dream abilities, particularly those of lucid dreaming and interacting with dreams that contain colors. So how do you dream? Do you find dreaming easy? Do you find remembering dreams easy? Are you able to lucid dream, and do you dream in color? All of these are issues that you can explore when you're examining your dreams, And dream journaling is the way in which to do this. I keep a dream journal. Sometimes I go back and examine them. Mostly I don't, because even just the act of recording allows you to store it in memory, and you can always go back to those memories. So if you haven't learnt to lucid dream yet, if you aren't convinced that you dream, and everybody does, then perhaps you too might be curious enough to give some of these techniques a go. Either way, I wish you some pretty wonderful, colourful dreams, and until I see you next time, dream well.